Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I have a word for you this morning. I hope it comes out clearly what I'm trying to convey. I hope you can get a hold of it. Please remember that everything that I speak on is geared toward your happiness, your success um, in this life. And a reminder that we only have one life to live. We only have a limited time here on this earth, and we don't know when our time to leave this earth is. So I wanted to talk briefly, and I know I say that every live, right? I want to talk briefly and then I talk forever. But really, truly, I wanted to talk briefly this morning about survival and trauma and healing and self-love. Now, as I've said in almost every live, I am someone who, and I guess this is part of my purpose here on earth, I am someone who people have been coming to talk to since I was little. Well, since I was little. And it was always so strange to me when I was little that I would have older people come out of nowhere, and also my peers, and come tell me their whole life story and what they were struggling with and suffering with. And, but because I have an empathetic heart, I always listened. And oftentimes, especially when I was young, I didn't have any advice to give you. I didn't have any wisdom to draw upon. But I just listened. And I found that by just listening, by just being there, by people just being able to share with me what they were not able to share, maybe with their sibling or their mother, their father, or their friends, or another adult, it was healing to them. And so I became, as a young person, the listener. The person that people could confide in, that they knew if they told me something, it was not going to go any further than the two of us. And I was always so honored that people would trust me with what was going on with them. But now at the same time, especially when I was younger, and people, especially my peers, are coming up to me and telling me about things like sexual abuse, which was normally the main topic, that domestic abuse, abuse from their parents or a step-parent, or sexual abuse, or both. That was a lot for me. And it was a lot for me to hear, and it was a lot for me to take on. But, I just kind of internalized it. And then as I've gotten older, it's still the same thing. I mean, like literally, I think you guys have heard, and I don't know how many lives that I've gone on, that people literally come up to me in Bed Bath & Beyond, at Walmart, anywhere that I am, and they will literally tell me their entire life story. Like, sometimes I wonder, what is it about one particular person that, like a black woman, a random black woman, that you would come up to her, not knowing her from Adam, not knowing who she is, never seen her before, and literally in an aisle tell her your whole life story. And it's really crazy to me. It doesn't when I hear things now, I'm not bothered the way I was when I was young. I just listen. It's very rare that I give any kind of advice, actually. Very rare that I say anything, other than to hug that person and to tell them that I love them. I just met you, but I love you, and you're beautiful, and you're worthy of love. I mean, that's pretty much all that I say to them. But there's this amazing healing that goes on, that you can see in their face, that you can feel when you hug them, that they just receive something that they've been looking for so long, right? And it's amazing to be able to give that. Like, I love making people smile. Like, around my town, everybody knows me. And when they see me, like, let me give you an example. Like, people, like, let's say that work in stores or whatever, and they're standing there and they're like, yes, thank you, and they have this look, this just look, like a mask that they're wearing. And then, I walk in and it's like, hey, Tish, what's up? What's going on? And, they get hyped. And I love that. I love that. And I love telling people, I love you. I'm so glad to see you. You made my day. You make me so happy when I see your smile. I love giving love to people. And, man, it's so much what is missing today is people are so jealous. They're so jealous. They can't give your post a like. I always laugh, and y'all know I always bring this up. I could literally drop a live, right? And I could have 50, 60 people watch it, and not one person will hit like. Not one person will hit like. Like, you have to reserve. I can't let her know that I like her, what she said. And it's just so funny to me. It's so crazy how people are just so quick to hate and so quick to be jealous and everything else. How we just can't show love. How people can't say please. They can't say thank you. Like, what in the world? It's bananas. But anyway, I want to talk about, I speak about that to say that although growing up, I was, now some people may consider my father's discipline of me abusive. I thought it was, stringent but necessary with me. But, I was not sexually abused. But, like I said, I've spoken to since I was little. So many people, like thousands literally, of young women, girls that have been sexually abused. And number one, I want to say, women, you have to do better. So we're going to get into self-love and why it's so important. One of the reasons self-love is so important is because women are allowing their little girls to be sexually abused by their boyfriends. And the reason they're allowing this to happen is because they're so desperate to have a man. They're so desperate for love, affection, attention, or to be able to say, please don't hit me. Oh! Oh! Oh. Oh, dear. He's so close to my car. Like, literally. Okay. They're so desperate. They're so desperate for love and attention that they ignore the fact that that man is there for their child. And they offer their child up as a sacrifice. They offer their child up as a sacrifice. Women know when their child is being abused by a man. They know. They know. I'm sorry. Don't tell me they don't know. They know. They're aware. And if I had $1 for every friend who told me when I was a teenager that they were being sexually abused by their stepfather or their father or their mother's boyfriend, I would be literally a multi-millionaire. And what happens, and it's the same story every time, when that child goes to the parent, the mother, and tells them what's happening, there's a violent response to what that child tells the mother. And it tells that child, it reinforces in that child's head, I am not loved. I do not have value. I am not loved enough to be protected. I am not loved enough to be believed. I have no value. And then this becomes generational. Do you understand? When a child is abused at home, abused, I'm talking about sexual abuse or violence. And I'm not talking about, oh, little Susie got spanked. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about abuse. You are reinforcing in that child's mind, I am not loved, I am not valued. And that child grows up not feeling loved, not feeling valued. That child invariably gets into a relationship where, because they don't place value on themselves, remember, you attract things. How you see yourself is what you're going to attract, okay? So they attract relationships where they are not loved and not valued, because if you don't love yourself, you don't value yourself, then someone else isn't going to love and value. It's very unlikely, excuse me, it's not impossible, but it's very unlikely that someone else is going to come along and you're going to attract someone who values you and loves you properly. And so you're going to go into a cyclical, that's why we have generational people. We're always talking about breaking generational curses, because these things are generational. Chances are, if you have a mother who allowed you to be the instrument for someone else, that's what was done to her. She was unloved, she was unvalued, and now she doesn't understand or see why you as her child should be loved or valued, because she wasn't herself. I have someone that I'm very close to that I love greatly. Actually, I have two someones. And they were abused as children. And what do? Number one, they rationalize the abuse. Number two, they justified behavior. How can I put this? They justified, one person justified their children not having certain things because they didn't have certain things. Instead of saying, I didn't have it, so I want my child to have it, they said, I didn't have it, so my children don't need it. Another person that I know who was abused as a child abused her children. These things are cyclical. They are taught. People fall back invariably on what it is that they grew up being taught, what their normal was. How many times do you talk to somebody who is an abuse survivor and their perspective is different? Because people know what they're exposed to, which is why it's so important to get out of your environment that you're in and seek new environments and travel and see how people live and people raise their children and different social norms and things of that nature. Because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So when you're dealing with someone who, through their childhood, was just trying to survive, children like this come up with many coping mechanisms, because they have to, in order to justify making it to the next day. They have to employ hope. They have to employ different coping mechanisms to deal with the trauma of sexual abuse, going outside of their body, and different things like that. And so what ends up happening when somebody doesn't put value on you, care for you properly, they don't teach you certain things, and you don't understand being loved, right? So it is very difficult to grow up properly loving yourself. And that can manifest in many different ways as an adult. You will run into adults who are jealous. They're jealous because they see different people with things that they never had. And they don't understand, why does she think she deserves this? Or why does she have this? You know, growing up, and I didn't include jealousy in my title, but okay, I'm going to speak on it real briefly. Growing up, I'm adopted, for those of you who don't know, and I was adopted at 3 months old from an orphanage. I mean, I really loved and identified growing up with the story of Annie, the original. You know, I'm that old that I went to see the original Annie when it was on Broadway and all of that. And I identified with it. I thought it was fabulous. You know, here's an orphan. I was an orphan. I was literally in an orphanage. I was born in poverty, like literally poverty. I was given up for adoption at 3 months old. I was adopted by my parents. And my parents at that time, in that day, back then, it was relatively rare for African American people to be wealthy, who were not sports athletes or entertainers. And my parents were neither, and but they were wealthy. And so I went from the orphanage to Beverly Hills. And so anyway, you know, over time, my father just became more wealthy. And I was raised in complete privilege that was unheard of, pretty much, like I said, unless you were the child of an athlete or an entertainer at that time. And, you know, I remember I would be at, you know, back east, when we moved back east, I would be at the prep schools, and everybody just assumed that I was a scholarship child. Assumed I was a scholarship child, because there was no way you were paying $40,000 in tuition back in the day, and you're black. There's just no way. You're obviously a scholarship child. And so it would be weird when people would say that to me, because I didn't even understand. I didn't even know what a scholarship kid was, and so they called me a scholarship kid, and I didn't even know what that was. You know, I didn't even know to fight back, you know, some of the time, because I didn't, for a long time, I wasn't even aware of what that was. And I think I shared this before. I had a birthday party one year. Now, most of the time, I wanted my birthday party at McDonald's, and this is, you know, young people don't understand this, because McDonald's back in the day, that was the spot. That's where you wanted your birthday party. You had to have a McDonald's birthday party if you wanted to be cool, just like, you know, then it became Chuck E. Cheese, and, you know. So back in the day, it was McDonald's. But this particular year, I had a party at my house, and we lived in a castle. My dad had built a castle. We lived right next to the governor of New York State, the state of New York, and he had built a castle. We had gargoyles on our castle. I had a turret that was my playroom, that was up a ladder from my bedroom. You know, I don't know, that house must have been like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square feet. I don't know how big it was. It was huge. It was a castle, an actual castle. And I'll never forget, the kids came over to my house, and they were like, their parents were like, how weird is it that you rented a house for your birthday party? And I was like, you know, like, I think back now on all the things that white kids said to me when I was growing up. And it's just so crazy. It blows my mind. Because, you know, I didn't understand what they were actually saying to me, you know. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, this is my house. This is where I live. And I would be like, you know, there's our family pictures, you know, and stuff like that. And their parents refused to believe that that was my actual house, that that's where we actually lived, and that I was an only child, and we lived in a house. I remember that house was so big that we had 90% of the house was shut off. My dad was like, we're going to shut the doors and close the vents, because I'm not paying to heat and cool this entire house when we only used 3 rooms. There was the kitchen, the living room, and I think my mom had a sunroom or something that we used. And then, our individual bedrooms. But those were the only rooms we used. And I don't even know, this is the crazy part, I don't even know I can't remember what the rest of the house looked like because we never went in it. But anyway, we had the house, and I was an only child. Just crazy. They thought that I rented the house. They were convinced, their parents were convinced, because there was a level of jealousy. There was a level of denial that a black man could be successful, and that a black man, I see what you wrote. I was a child. I attracted people who I love fully, but never got that in return. That's, amen. Amen. They could not understand it. They were jealous, or they were angry. People operate from a place of what is inside them from their experiences. And we have to understand that. And if you were abused as a child and you were made to feel less than, or you were made to feel that you have no value, you're going to, until that trauma, because that's a trauma. Make no mistake, if somebody puts their hands on you and touches you as an adult, and especially ever so much more as a child, that is a trauma. That is a trauma. Abuse is a trauma. And so many people who are abused have gone through, thank you, Ms. Rita, I love you. They have gone through trauma, and they have called it something else. They have made justifications in their mind, and I'm not accusing. I'm saying I understand that because the trauma is too great to deal with it head on. It is too great to your mind. You got to put it in a little compartment. I understand that. It has to go into a little compartment. But what you also have to realize is things that happen to us that we compartmentalize, things that are very traumatic, that we compartmentalize, that we do not deal with head on. I told the story yesterday about my suicide attempt. And thank God I had a best friend who just held me. And let me cry, and let me say, I feel so betrayed, I feel so abandoned, I feel so, this and that and the other, and I got it out. And thank God I didn't have to carry it. That doesn't mean it didn't hurt for an extended period of time, but I was able to heal because, she soothed me and held me and told me she loved me and all of that. And so I was able to heal from that particular trauma, because getting to the point where you're about to kill yourself is a trauma. You are going through mental trauma to the point where you don't feel that there is any better way to deal with the situation, to handle what you're going through. It is a mental overload that you cannot process. And so is sexual abuse. So is physical abuse. You have to deal with the trauma. And a lot of people are carrying around trauma that they have not dealt with. I met a friend. When I say met a friend, I ran into a friend the other day, right? And I just love her. A lot of people don't understand her. And because they don't understand her, they're afraid of her a little bit. But I love her, and she has a lot going on. And she said to me, Tish, I don't have any friends. I'm very isolated, or I don't have many friends. I don't know if she said I don't have any or many friends. I'm very isolated because she said people can't handle what's going on. She was saying they can't handle the level of trauma that I'm living through, that is going on with me, and those that I love. And I thought to myself, wow, That is so many people's truth, that they are dealing with trauma, living through trauma, have lived through trauma, and the trauma is so horrible that they feel that either A, nobody would believe them, B, nobody would love them if they knew, or C, they deserved it. It's often A, B, or C. And so they're living with it. They're carrying it around, and it manifests in different ways. Because here's the thing. When your mind is fractured, you cannot operate wholly and fully. A fractured mind creates fissures, and those fissures are going to let something out. And what comes out, because you have not processed it, you have not confronted it, you cannot handle it, it manifests in different ways. So it manifests often when you see somebody who has an alcohol addiction. There's something deeper behind that. It's not just that they love the taste of Jim Beam, right? There's something deeper behind that. When you see somebody who has a gambling addiction, when you see somebody who has a sexual addiction, oftentimes it's because they were sexually abused. And sexually abused people often become promiscuous. When they have, a video game addiction, a lot of times that can be because they are escaping into a fantasy world where they can feel safe and they can be somebody, right? Why do people so often, gamers, become obsessed with their rankings and all of these things? Because they want to be in an environment that's not real life, a simulated environment where they can be someone powerful, someone important that people look up to. They need to gain. Addictions can be sometimes people who have cleaning addictions because they're trying to gain a measure of control back in their life. Or on the flip side of that, when people have addictions like alcoholism or drugs or something like that, because they're escaping, they're trying to escape what is so traumatic that has happened in their life. And so what I want to say is, you have to heal. It is so vitally important, no matter how hard it is. And here's the hardest part. Even harder than having to heal, you need to confront your abuser, if possible. You need to confront your abuser, and you need to understand when you confront your abuser, you are doing it for you. You are not doing it for them to admit any kind of culpability, because let me tell you something about abusers. They don't admit culpability. I've been in a domestic violence situation before I got married, and I'll never forget. The police had come out. They were at our house every week, and the police came out, and the one cop said to me, he was a regular, he said, "You do understand," and this is before speaking about domestic violence was popular. It wasn't really spoken about. And so, there wasn't the 800 numbers and, all the resources that there are today. And he said to me, "You do realize that the next time I come out, you're going to be dead. I'm not going to be out here to break up a fight or talk to him or talk to you. I'm going to be here to zip you up in a body bag." He said, "So I'll make sure to bring it the next time I come." I left shortly after. Thank God he said that to me, because something clicked. And there was something in me, I don't know what was in me, but I engaged in so many dangerous and reckless behaviors as a younger person. There was something in me that didn't love me fully. Um, and so what I'm saying is, because I did love myself, but didn't love me fully. Not totally, not properly. Um, what I'm saying is you have to. You have to heal, or you are going to walk around and not even know it as half of a person. Half of a person. And self-doubt, let me tell you, it will eat you up. It will eat you up. It will cause you to behave in ways that you don't want to behave. It will cause you to question yourself. You'll look in the mirror and there will always be a fault that you will find with yourself. Right? Why do you think cosmetic surgery is so lucrative? Because there are so many women out there that are not happy with who they are. When you're pleased with who you are, you don't have to go cut up your face, cut yourself, and mold yourself into something different. You're happy with who you are, with who God made you to be. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't necessarily want to look better. Put on a little makeup, lose some weight, But what I'm saying is, a lot of us as women are traumatized. We are going through some form of trauma. And on the outside, you look good, you got a job, you're raising your kids. But let me tell you something. A lot of us can snap. A lot of us can lack patience. A lot of us at times can lack empathy. And trauma manifests in who you pick as a partner, who you're with, who you have children with, which can drastically affect how your children are raised, what kind of environment you're allowing them to be raised in, what you could be accepting, what you could be turning a blind eye to. Okay, that's real. Why do you think self-love is such a big topic nowadays? Because it's basically saying so many people out there are damaged. They're hurt. And in the event if you cannot confront as an adult that person who abused you, if they're dead, or, if their response is, I don't care, that never happened, right? That's what a lot of people tell me who talk to me about abuse. I confronted my mom finally. I was brave enough, I confronted my mom. I confronted my stepdad. And they told me that never happened. And then that person, on top of abusing you, shows you the ultimate disrespect for all the trauma, all the pain, everything you had to overcome, everything that you went through, maybe the therapy, whatever. And they tell you that never even happened, right? They gaslight you. They gaslight you. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember anything of the sort. Where do you take that? What do you do with that? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're going to have to heal yourself. At the end of the day, if you don't live close enough to me to come talk to me and for me to hold you and pat you on the back and just love on you and tell you it's okay and you're beautiful, you're going to have to heal yourself. You're going to have to forgive yourself. So that's step number one. You're going to have to forgive yourself, because I've noticed that often with survivors of abuse, they blame themselves. Well, why didn't I run away? Why didn't I tell a teacher? Why didn't I go to the police? Why didn't I this? Why didn't I that? You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself. Because unfortunately, with abuse comes shame. And it wasn't your shame to bear in the first place. It was not your shame to bear in the first place. So you have to forgive yourself and stop going through and cycling through the what ifs and why didn't I's and all these other things and why was this allowed and how did this happen to me and why me and, why did that one have such a good life and childhood? You have to let that go. And you have to say, you know what, I was chosen because I'm strong. That's why this happened to me, because I'm strong. Because another child couldn't have handled it. Another child would have killed themselves. But I'm still here and I'm a survivor, which means I am strong and that's why I was chosen and not someone else. You have to look yourself every day in the mirror and really look yourself in the mirror, not just quickly, to apply makeup, to hide your face, to mask it. You have to look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you are beautiful. You are beautiful. Whatever attributes you have, they are beautiful. However your skin looks, you can fix your skin. You can get some stuff and work on your skin. But you're beautiful. You are beautiful. And do whatever I would encourage you, if you feel like you need makeup to feel more beautiful, wear makeup. If you feel like, you need to wear a wig I wear wigs because they're fun and I love having fun with my hair. I'm obsessed with having fun with my hair. But, if you need to wear a wig so that you feel more beautiful or, whatever it is, get your nails done and keep your toes done or whatever it is to make you feel more beautiful, do that. But know that you are beautiful without all of those things. You are beautiful. You are smart. You are loved by God. I love you, and I may not even know you personally. I love you. I see your potential. I see who you can be. But you have to see it as well. Why do you think so many successful people commit suicide or go crazy, have mental breakdowns? Because either they're in abusive situations, being in Hollywood or the music industry, but also because they don't love themselves. You can have an abused person can have a million people saying, oh, you're so smart, you're so talented, you're so beautiful, but they don't feel that. Those words bounce right off of them, right? They bounce right off of them. When I was in a domestic violence situation, it's so complex. I'll just say it's a very complex situation. It's a very complex situation. But really at the root of it, at the bottom of it, is you're allowing somebody to treat you in a way that's not acceptable because you're lacking something in here. You're lacking a certain love that you need. It's lacking in here. And you have to find that. You have to find the beauty in yourself, in the way that you look. You have to find the beauty in the talents that God gave you. You have to say affirmations to yourself every single day. Even if you do not believe those affirmations, you must say those positive affirmations every single day to yourself. Because if you say them enough, you will begin to believe them. You must understand that you are worthy of being loved and that there is love out there for you, proper, healthy love, friendships, and relationships. You must seek those out, okay? And I don't know how else to say it other than you are special, you are important, you are loved by God. You have so much to offer the world. You have so much to offer the world. The devil may be trying to convince you that you are nothing, you have nothing, you never will be anything. The things that were put into your mind may be said to you by a parent, You're no good, you're stupid, you're ugly, why aren't you smart like your sister, or this one or that one. Whatever was said to you, just understand that just because somebody said that to you, that does not make it your truth. Just because someone said something to you or did something to you, that does not make it your truth, and it does not make that who you are and what you are. Do you understand? If you were abused, let's say you were abused sexually, that is not what you are. That is not the sum of your parts. That is not all you are. Number one, you're a survivor. If you're watching this, if you're hearing this, you're a survivor. But number two, you are so much more than that. You are so much more than that experience. You are so much more than that trauma and that trial. So I encourage you to get therapy. There's no stigma in therapy. Get therapy, okay? Get therapy. You need to also join a domestic violence survivors group or a sexual abuse survivors group. You need to join a group of other people that are just like you, who have stories just like you, and see that you are not alone. You are not alone. There are many other people out there just like you. And together you can support one another and grow and become whole and heal, okay? I remember when I was, and I love my mother, and she's fabulous, but I remember when I was starting off as a young mother, and, my husband and I were raising our children very differently from the way I was raised. I was raised by, for the most part, a family of very, very strong, independent, feminist women. And here I am, young, chosen to get married, now my mother was a traditionalist, but she was the oldest out of all of her siblings, so she was a traditionalist, but everybody else. Strong feminist women, very successful, very wealthy, very, very educated. And here I decide to, at a young age, not a young age, okay, I was 24 when I had my first child, I wasn't young, but I mean, being a young woman, decide that I'm going to get married and I'm going to start having children. And my family was horrified. They were appalled. Like, why would you take all the education, top tier, top-notch education that your parents have given you, and all the opportunities, and you've traveled the world, and you've, taken every lesson imaginable, and played the violin, and all of this, and you would throw it away by getting married and popping out children, starting to pop out children. I remember my mother said to me, and it was so hilarious because it was the exact same quote, as it turns out, that was used in Terms of Endearment, which is one of my absolute favorite movies because the mother reminds me so much of my mother. And she said the exact same thing that was said in Terms of Endearment. How do you ever expect to improve the quality of your life if you keep on having children with that man? And my vision, that was my vision. I was going to be a homemaker, and I was crunchy. I was a crunchy helicopter homeschooling mama, and that was my dream. That was my vision. But that was a horror to my family. It was a horror. Like, what? What? You want to do what? You want to be what? You want to throw everything away and have these children? And, and I was like, I'm going to stay at home and raise them because I feel like that's my responsibility. I gave birth to them. It's my job to raise them. And I sacrificed everything, it turned out. I had 2 children who had special needs, my first 2. And I sacrificed everything for me, for them, and which is fine. I mean, they're my children, But, oh, my family, oh gosh, they talked about me like a dog. They talked about me like a dog. And criticized everything that I did, the way I was raising them, and everything. And it was so hard. I was so isolated. And this is, before there was like 1,000, mama groups and meetups and co-ops and all that kind of stuff. They existed, but they were not at all like they are now. They were not easy to find. There wasn't the internet, and all. It just was very, very, very different. And I was very isolated, especially having the 2 special needs children and being at specialists and hospitals all the time. I was very isolated. And then I was also, doing daycare. Very isolated. And, and then here's my family, like, disagreeing with everything that I'm doing, and the way that I'm having all these children. And it was like that for years, criticism of, well, why don't you do this with your kids? Why don't you do that with your kids and everything, And it was hard. It was hard. Do you know that just last year, mind you, my oldest child is 26. Just last year, you know what they said? You did a great job raising your kids. They're amazing. Gee, thanks. Yeah, I know. Duh. But my point being is, you can't wait on applause from people. You can't wait on people to validate what has happened to you, what you're going through, the trauma you suffered, and things of that nature. You can't wait on other people, and that's something that so often people, we want applause, we want validation, we want acceptance, we want permission. And it's just not going to happen, most likely. It's just not going to happen. And so you're going to have to take care of what it is that you went through, what it is that you're going through on your own. So I'm telling you, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself. It is central to everything. It is central to your survival. It is central to the survival of your children that you are raising. And you need to do daily affirmations. You have to do daily affirmations. You have to look at yourself and take pictures of yourself as a child and apologize to that child. You have to heal. Heal your inner child. Apologize to that child and say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you weren't protected. I'm so sorry. It wasn't right. It wasn't fair. But you turned out beautiful. You turned out to be me. And I'm beautiful. You're beautiful. And say your daily affirmations. Stand in front of the mirror and say those daily affirmations. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are wanted. And say it until you believe it in here. Find those survivor groups. And don't wallow in what happened. Don't wallow. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. You're a survivor. But draw strength from other women who've gone through a similar situation. And heal. Be kind to yourself. Do nice things for yourself. Learn how to love yourself, basically. Learn how to love yourself. That means long bubble baths. That means manicures, pedicures. That means take time to have a facial routine. That means take time to shave your legs and lotion them. That means love yourself. Love yourself. Because remember, if you don't love yourself, and love yourself first and foremost, nobody else is going to love you properly. If you don't see yourself worthy of love, who else is going to see you worthy of love out there on the streets? Who else is going to see you worthy of love in a relationship? Okay, so, a lot of you women have multiple degrees and great jobs and everything else, and you portray this persona at work and all of this, but you don't really love yourself. Trust me, when I say I've talked to thousands of women, thousands, it's what I do. It's what I do. I talk to women. Lots of y'all, successful jobs, multiple degrees. You are that girl at your job. But at home, self-destructive behaviors because you don't love yourself. It's all a projection that you're doing at work of a strong, self-loving, woman. So that's all I have. I'm sorry if I went on and on, but I just felt like it needed to be said. You have to love yourself. You have so much greatness and beauty inside of you, and you have to tap into it. You have to tap into it. It's time to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for whatever you went through that you feel you should have done something, right? Should have done something. Forgive yourself. It's okay. Because the fault and the violation is not yours. And hurt people hurt people. Remember that. Hurt people hurt people. People who are sexually abused oftentimes grow up to sexually abuse. Unless that cycle is broken, unless healing occurs. People who were physically abused grow up to physically abuse people. Their own children, right? Perfect victims. Unless that cycle is broken. So, you need to, this is part of one of the reasons why I say it's so important to write down and identify who you want to be. And not just necessarily, career-wise. But write down what kind of person you want to be. Write down what kind of mother, even if you're already a mother currently, what kind of mother do you want to be? How do you want your children to see you? How do you want to be able to see yourself? Right? Write down what you want to do for yourself. The new things that you're going to incorporate into your life every week to show yourself that you love yourself and that you're worthy of attention and love. And attention and love does not have to come from an outside source. You can give yourself attention and love. It can be, I bought this soft, cozy blanket, and every week I'm going to take 2 hours during the week, break it up, and I'm going to lay wrapped in my soft, cozy blanket, sipping tea and reading a favorite book. Or, whatever routine that you want to come up with for yourself. Realize that you are worthy of the time and the love and the attention. And it has to come from you first before it can come from someone else. Don't look for, and that's why so many women are divorced and in broken, marriages, because they're looking for love and validation from an outside source. When love and validation has to come from you. I know, and then I'll go. I know that with my husband and myself, my husband grew up in a broken home. I did not, but I had some issues. And so we came to each other as two halves. And it's a common misconception that a good relationship is when half of a person meets another half of a person, and then together they're going to make a whole person. That don't work. That does not work. Don't work. And that's why so many people are in broken marriages and failed marriages and, man after man after man after man, because you ain't right. You're not right. And yes, we as women love to blame the other person, But in all honesty, often we aren't right either. They're probably not right, but we're not right either. And if you're a half of a person, what do you think you're going to attract? If you are a half a person, what do you think you're going to attract? You are going to attract another half of a person. So it is important that you come into a relationship as a whole healed person. And then you can attract another whole healed person. And together you can be stronger and better. But if you half a person and he half a person and you got issues and he has issues, and what y'all think you're going to do? Y'all going to get together, have issues together, then you're going to bring children into it, and then your kids are going to have issues. Your kids are going to have issues. So I cannot stress the importance of healing. Very important to heal and love yourself. And also when you love yourself, you're not desperate. You're not in a state of desperation. You're not in a state of desperation for a man. You're okay being with yourself because you love yourself. And so you're comfortable spending time with yourself. Okay? So there's so many reasons why that's important. I can tell you today, if my husband, God forbid, died tomorrow, I am not running out and finding a man. No, ma'am, I'm not. Number one, because I still have a young child. And I will never put my young child around a man. Never. The way people out here abusing children, boys and girls, right, left, and sideways, up and down, lusting after and watching child porn. Honey, do you know how big child porn is? It is a multi-trillion-dollar business. And you think that the person you love isn't watching child porn, or your neighbor isn't watching child porn, or the dentist isn't watching child porn, or your teacher, the people who are teaching your children aren't watching child porn. Honey, then who is? Who is? $1 trillion. Who is? Okay? So, no, I would never bring another man in my house around my child. Never, never, never. I love my child too much. I love my child too much. I place value on my children because I love myself and my children are an extension of me. Wouldn't happen. Okay? But that's why you have to learn how to be comfortable with yourself. So you're not out here trying to find a man, place a man in your bed, bring a man into your home, a strange man into your home. How terrifying for your children. How terrifying to have a strange man brought into the house. So you have to heal. You have to love you so that you can be with you. And you're not afraid to be with you. Some people are terrified to be by themselves, to be with themselves. They've got to have the TV going, or they have to constantly have friends over, or they constantly have to be at a friend's house. Anything that it takes not to be alone. And that's why they bring strange men off the streets into their home, so that they're not in the bed alone. You've got to heal yourself. You have to be whole. Okay? So that's what I hope, and my wish is for all of you, that you heal from past trauma. You confront it. You heal from it. And that you practice self-care, self-love. It is an essential step to the road to success. And that's why you see people who have success, a lot of times they lose their minds or behave erratically, because they don't truly love themselves. Doesn't matter how popular they are, how much money they have, how much notoriety they have, or whatever. But if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to handle success. I mean, I'm just giving you some straight up truths and facts. If you don't love yourself, you are not going to be able to handle success, period. So this is an essential step on the path to being successful. You have to work on you, first and foremost. Before you can collaborate accurately, before you can be with that man, before you can be a good mother to your children. If you don't love you, how are you going to love your children correctly? That doesn't make any sense. If you don't love you, how are you going to love your children correctly? You can't. And a lot of you who are not healed and whole want to take on men as projects. That's a whole nother lie. Taking on a man as a project. Oh, I want to fix him. Because you don't want to fix yourself. So you want to fix somebody else instead. So, be truthful with yourself. Main thing. Be truthful always with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Don't hide. Be truthful with yourself. All the time. All the time. Even if that truth hurts. Even if it hurts. You can change. Whoever you are, you can change. Maybe you're a liar. Maybe you tell lies all the time. You don't have any character. You don't have any integrity. You can't be counted on to do what you say. You can change that. That's not how you have to die. You do not have to die that way. You can change that any day you want to. You have the ability to change, to be more than what you are today, to be more than what you are today, to, by the end of the year, to look like an entirely different person, if that's what needs to occur. So don't be discouraged that because you've been playing small or you've been the same person for the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that's how you have to die. Any day, any time of that day that you want, you can flip the script and become somebody different. It's within you to do. It is within you to do. So go ahead and start healing and become a different person, and don't care what other people have to say about you. Don't care what other people have to say about you. Oh, you think you brand new now? Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, thank you for noticing. I sure do. There, it's that easy. Shut them up. Don't worry about anybody who... If somebody is part of your journey and they're meant to be part of your journey and they see you evolving into a better, healthier, kinder, more loving person, they're going to congratulate you. And if they don't, then what did I say yesterday? You don't love what doesn't love you back. Don't attach yourself to, don't hold on to anything that doesn't love you back. Period. All right, so that's all I have. Have a great one.